call the regular council meeting of December 5th to order. There is an agenda in front of you. I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Skelton-Morven. Any additions, deletions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have minutes from 3 meetings. Entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the special council meeting of November the 21st. Councillor Adey, seconded Councillor Rondawa. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. You have minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of November the 21st. I entertain a motion to adopt them. Councillor Niche, Councillor Cunningham. Any additions, deletions? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. And finally, we have the minutes of the regular council meeting of November the 21st. A motion to adopt them, please. Councillor Skelton-Morven, Councillor Niche. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on then to reports. We have a report from the Chief Financial Officer with regards to the community enhancement grants. And the recommendation is that council undertake an exercise to direct staff on those grants. First of all, I'm going to just see Chief Beckwith. I don't know if there's any comments from staff before we begin discussing with council.
Not at this time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I note in the Director Bauman's report, she does a good job of outlining the potential tax consequences of increases, right? And it's as simple as if the money goes up, somebody's got to pay for it, right? And so I ask you to keep that in mind. Now, you have a report in your package, but as you know, I've also rearranged that order a little bit. And so if you think it would be more helpful, I'm not going to ask for a motion at this time. I think the process that we need to go through is a little bit different if we're going to make our way through this. And so I would suggest, I've broken them into 3 blocks. And the first block being those that are actual repeats from last year that have changed very little. That's the Evergreen program at Charles Hayes, Prince Rupert Community Arts Council, the Prince Rupert Community Halloween Fest, Prince Rupert Crime Stoppers, the Navy League, and the Wildlife Rehab Shelter. It's all in front of you there. I guess by way of, if you'll allow me to just kind of do a straw poll on that, how many of you are fine with them the way they are? And if you're not, I certainly give you a chance to speak to that. How many are okay with them just the way they are? I've got in that first batch, just the repeats from last year that have little change. Okay, so I've got 3 on this side, 4, 5. Councillor Cunningham, I'm sensing you want to speak to something there.
Well, on the Evergreen program,
yeah,
they're asking for cash each time they do a cleanup.
Correct.
$200. And I'm looking at how we have other organizations that do cleanup strictly on a volunteer basis.
Yeah.
And this is somewhat undermining the volunteers and those organizations. I have no problem with what they're doing or that Evergreen, but I just see paying them $200 cash for each time they actually go into the community and clean up. It's a good program and everything, but I'm looking at the fact that we have other organizations that do it for nothing on quite a regular basis and do a very good job and have quite a few volunteers that come out.
Thank you. I think, if I'm correct, these are students that have particular challenges, and it is a fundraiser for them. So by doing it for $200 5 times, it's a way of them raising money. It looks like we council approved last year $750, so it would be an increase. I'm not saying that to the positive or the negative, but just to the. So, Councillor Cunningham, would you be in favor of cutting that amount?
It's not a matter of cutting the amount, it's a matter of the aesthetics of what we're doing here. But if it's for a fundraiser for this particular group, then I don't really have a problem with it, but it didn't explain where the money was going that I could see.
There, correct me if I'm, I'll go to staff. Chief Beckwith.
It is for a fundraiser, and if you need clarification on where that's going to go, we can get that later on.
Yeah. I think it was for travel to Terrace, as I recall, but to go explore programs that are suitable for these kids at the college. But anyway,
I got no problem with that.
okay. So we've basically, I think council then agrees that the package of repeats from last year with little change would proceed. So they can become part of a motion. I'm working towards building a motion here, all right? So now if we go, there are 4 that are repeats from previous years, or at least 3 of the 4 of them are repeats from previous years, and their increases are in fact, I say below $5,000, but they're actually below $2,500. And they are as follows: the Prince Rupert Fire Department Guns and Hoses charity game. They're requesting an in-kind donation of $1,000. The Prince Rupert Skating Club, an in-kind donation of $1,600. The Prince Rupert Senior Center cash donation of $1,000. National Aboriginal Day Committee, an increase of in-kind donation from $2,500 to $5,000. I'll just say, just by way of helping, I know Councillor Cunningham will want to leave the room. I see your hand. Go ahead.
On just one aspect of the 4, 25%
Correct.
of the thing.
Correct.
So
So what I will suggest, again with council's permission, is that we have a discussion around the 3 with you in the room, and then I will ask you to leave while we talk about the senior center. Is that all right? Councillor Cunningham's declaring a conflict because of his role over at the senior center. All right. So ignoring the senior center, which is not a repeat, you've got the firefighters, and some of these we got to recognize. I suspect this is the case for both the firefighters and the skating club. Because of COVID, a lot of things didn't happen that are now happening again, right? And so there has been requests. They've been on the list before. They weren't on the list last year, and they're coming and asking for 2023. All right. So if I could go, what's the best way you'd like to do this? If I can go, let's go one at a time. Let's go the firefighters. Just again, straw poll, show of hands. How many people would support that? All right. Okay. Thank you. Skating club. This is for their annual show. I've got enough hands. Does anybody want to speak about the skating club Councillor Cunningham?
well, okay, the Guns N' Roses one.
Guns and Hoses.
Or Guns and Hoses. Roses. Guns and Roses. That's a 60 thing. But they charge a fee to go in there by donation, I believe.
Yes, they do.
And that goes towards charitable causes and a burn fund.
Correct.
Okay, now the skating club, they're asking basically the same thing.
Correct.
Do they charge you to go into their gala? And if so, what do they do with the money when they charge you?
We got an answer to that?
At this point, we don't know if they charge for an entry fee for that, but proceeds are for a fundraiser.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So then I'm going to skip the senior center. We're going to the National Aboriginal Day Committee. In the past, have received and this is, I guess just for the sake of people that are listening at home, when we're saying in kind, what we're talking about is most often it's the waiving of fees for a rental of one of our facilities. Okay.
Yeah. So, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Before
yes.
we proceed on this, I do serve as a master of ceremonies on a regular basis for this. So, out of perceived conflict, and have participated at board discussions for the National Aboriginal Day Committee. I'll just recuse myself for this
Okay.
particular one.
Okay, then I'll ask you to leave the room, and we'll call you right back in. Councillor Nish. Yeah, okay.
I just feel that with the National Aboriginal Day, they actually ask for 5,000 each year. A lot of it's to do with if they have to use the Civic Center. Most of the time, they don't have to use the Civic Center because they do the waterfront. So normally we give them the 2,500, and I think that they would probably be happy if we gave them the 2,500 again, like we always do. So that would be my.
All right, I'm getting a nod, and a nod. Okay, so we'll straw poll on that one unless there's any other discussion. Straw poll? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Can we have Councillor Skelton Morvan return? And Councillor Cunningham is going to leave the room. All right, so this is a request for an event that the Senior Center would like to put on. I think you've read the background on it. It would they'd be reaching out to other communities. I think it's a crib tournament, as I recall. Reading through straw poll on this one. Yes, so, yes. All right, pretty comfortable on that one. Then can I have Councillor Cunningham called back into the room, please? Okay, so now we move to the final set, which are there's 6 of them altogether, and these are ones where the amount is large enough to have, noticeable budgetary impact. Not that by any means is a criteria for saying yes or no, but it just these are the ones I think that are going to require more significant thought, discussion, whatever, and could include, in the case certainly of some of them, of postponing that decision if for most of these I don't think there's an immediate demand tonight for an answer. You're looking at me funny, Director Bombin. Is that no? You're okay. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so I'm going to just go in the order in which they are presented. The first one is from EcoTrust Canada. It is a request. So last year they were funded for $7,500 to do with the urban farm project, and this year they are seeking $30,000. So an increase of $22,500. Any comments or questions on this one? Councillor Nish.
I actually want to speak to all of these as a whole.
Great.
I think.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think all of these groups are great groups for our community. I think they're all doing wonderful things, and we all want to see trails. And I love the fact that the gymnastics club is growing and the swim club is there. And these are not that they're not deserving groups, but as in the report, as noted, we are coming into a challenging year this year for our budget coming up, and I have a hard time wanting to add to that hard time that's going to be coming for us. And it's probably not going to be a wonderful year for our budget of 2023. I mean, we've got a lot of challenges with inflation and just many other things on the horizon. Interest rates have risen, which affects us, I'm sure, in some way or another. And so when I look at this whole group, not that they're not deserving, I just feel that at this time we are not in the financial position to fund really any of these, except for obviously the special events, which we've funded every year. They're asking for quite a substantial change. My thoughts would be that we go back up to the number that was previous to COVID, which was 30,000. And because this isn't a new one, this is just more, because of COVID, it was changed. So I would say, going to the existing or the previous 30,000 and the rest of them, I really can't support any of them at this time, only because, not that I'm against the groups, I'm against the fact that we are coming into a very, very challenging year on our budget. And I feel that until we see our budget numbers in the new year, although it may seem like a small amount of money, I think every penny is going to count next year. So.
Thank you. You may have saved us time. We're going to find out. So you're suggesting that special events receive the $30,000 that they would have received in past years, pre-COVID, and just for clarity, are you suggesting that the Eco Trust received the $7,500 they received last year, or nothing?
Well, I mean, I think the 7,500 actually was for a heat pump thing, I believe, but I could be wrong on that one. Whether it was for the garden or the application with heat pump, I just feel that at this time I really can't support any of them. Eco Trust kind of comes more on a one-on-one. They're not like looking for a particular fund every year. They're coming forward with different projects every year. Right. So to me, I just feel at this time, I'm not willing to put my support into any of these. Okay. Not because I don't want to, because I don't think it's a discussion that we can have at this time. Okay. For financial reasons.
So just for the sake of moving our discussion along, I'm starting then from the place that Eco Trust would get 0 along with the others. The exception would be, wait. No, I got to circle back to Tourism Prince Rupert. I want to ask you about Tourism Prince Rupert, because that had $17,000 last year, and that was for running the visitor info center, and they've asked for an increase on that amount.
The visitor info center, part of it is what we fund, so I'm okay with the same. Okay. So it would be 0 to Eco Trust, 30,000 to special events, plus of course the 12 in kind. 17 to Tourism Prince Rupert. Is that what I'm hearing, or 25? Can I just get that confirmed as a 17 for the? Okay, yes, 17 for the visitor center. Yeah. Sorry. 17 for the visitor 17, center. Thank you. Okay. All right. Yes, Councillor Adey.
Councillor Niche stole part of my speech, and that was the part that suggests that all of these organizations are really good, and I would love to be able to support all of them. I do think, though, some of the other things that came up are also valid, and I think we're facing some uncertainties in terms of our budgeting. I think that's been made fairly clear in the analysis that came with the report from the Chief Financial Officer. I want to point out just a couple of other sort of wrinkles in this. You've got a number of organizations where they're quite broad in terms of their membership and the number of people involved in them. So on the one hand, you could look at an organization like that and say, well, we should support it because it's obviously of interest to a lot of people. On the other hand, you could say that it's of interest to a lot of people, which means that they have a broader resource base from which to pursue their the funds they need to do what they do. The problem is that they're not alone. So you have on this list, you have the swim club, you have the gymnastics club. We also in the community have other organizations that are really very similar and probably face very similar challenges. So my concern is that we not put ourselves in a position of doing something for one organization and facing the precedent that we've set and find ourselves feeling that we have to do the same thing for other organizations that may or may not have come forward, but they could look at this and go, well, we should jump in on that. I think that's a very slippery slope. I'm not sure that I want to go down that slope. When I began thinking through this whole process, and I spent quite a bit of time on the weekend looking through individual proposals and looking at people's budgets and how much support do these organizations have from other sources and what have you. I found myself arriving at the place where I feel like we need to continue the mechanism of community enhancement grants, but I don't believe this is a year that we can grow that from where we are. So I think my position is that whatever we end up doing tonight, we need to try and do it within the confines of keeping that number constant. And that's kind of where I stand. So for the most part, I'm supporting what Councillor Niche said. And like him, I don't want anybody to infer from that I'm not fully supportive of these organizations and what they do. I really, I do support them. I just think that, there's a lot of complexity in terms of civic government deciding where the money is going to go, and I think we have to be very cautious this year and maybe for a number of years going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Similar to both Councillor Niche and Councillor Adie, I echo a lot of what's been said. My only question is, I'm wondering if we could find out, both the swim club and the gymnastics association have asked for in-kind, and the gymnastics has mentioned that part of it would be for tables and chairs for some community gatherings,
right,
and fundraisers, which is quite similar to what we've approved for skating.
Right.
And so, not to go back and not to give everybody, without understanding everybody's individual needs, I do wonder if we could, I agree completely with what's been said about the other ones, but I do think that if the swim club is trying to do a fundraiser and so is the gymnastics club, and we've approved that for others, it would make sense that we revisit that.
right. All right. Sorry, I'm going to go to Councillor Randhawa, Cunningham, and then Nish. Councillor Randhawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree with all the councillors. They already said like what's the issues there. Like if we go with all the requested amounts, like our taxpayers have to pay 1% or 1.2% increase just to do these things, and especially all the like these days groceries going up, and so people with fixed income, it would be even 1% would be very hard for them to pay for extra tax this year.
Yeah.
So I think I will stay with the last year's request and go with that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
Okay, I tend to mimic what everyone else has said, but adding to that is, in kind is one thing, but like we were sort of put into a corner where we had to lease that warehouse off Canfisco, and we have to pay for that. And I agree with Councillor Forster here. If it's chairs or tables they need, then fine. But that's that slippery slope that Councillor Adie was talking about. If we start giving up revenue for in-kind for rentals of places, pretty soon you've got the youth soccer, who are talking about going into that building, as well as the fields. You've got minor hockey. You've got a lot of other organizations that do a lot of good and enhance a lot of athletic ability. And we have programs where you can feed into them. And one of them is the Guns and Hoses, not Roses, where they give money to an athletic fund for every kid gets to play. And so if there's any difficulties with people not having the initial money to get involved in these, they can go to those programs, and they're very good. And it's one of the reasons I didn't mind putting up recreation fees a few years ago, because those programs were there for kids that couldn't afford it. But I really think that if it's something like chairs and tables, that we can supply something like that minor for fundraisers and things like that. It's not like it's a big thing, but that would be on an individual basis, and it could go back to the rec committee or whatever else is going to take its place. But starting to subsidize different groups for their actual usage of facilities in the city is that slippery slope we were talking about, and it would just snowball and get out of hand.
Thank you. Councillor Niche.
But, well, I'm not quite finished.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Niche. Special events. I think if there's any group that needs to up the ante a bit from us, it's special events. It's the one group where the whole city gets involved, whether it's Seafest or any of those, Winterfest, something like that. And that's a group that we should sit down with, and if they need extra funding and they can't make ends meet, because it's the one group where every taxpayer in this town pays into and can actually benefit from. Some don't use the club. Some don't use the rec center, some don't use the other facilities, but everyone in the city participates in that particular event like Seafest or something like that. So it's the one group that I think we should look carefully at.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Niche.
Yeah, I just wanted to a little bit of response to Councillor Forrester and Cunningham, I guess, just with in regards to in kind. Well, the only problem I have with these particular groups with the swim club and the gymnastics, as far as providing, say, tables and chairs and stuff, is that, you know, once you do it for one, you have to do it for all. And we've got many events that go on at the Civic Center through many groups, whether it be, you know, the All Native basketball tournament or the, you know, minor hockey, or anyone that uses all those tables and chairs. Those are fees and charges that are all collected on in the bylaws. And so if we do it for one, then we'll have to do it for all. And so it's not there again. I would love to support these groups. Anyone knows that's paid attention that I've been a strong supporter of the gymnastics club and helping them get where they're at this point already with their new location and that. So it's not that I'm against the groups. It's all about the budget this year for me. And, you know, and if we do it for one, we'll have to do it for all. And if we give it to these groups this year, then next year it'll be the minor hockey and the whatever other group coming forward asking for big amounts of money. So not wanting to sound like the Grinch, I'm having to, you know, make tough decisions, and that's why I'm here. And unfortunately, I just can't support that because of, otherwise we got to do it for everyone.
All right, I'm going to propose before we go on, Councillor Cunningham, I'm going to propose that we shape a motion. I think we're close enough to have a motion, and then if you want to make amendments to the motion, but we're really close if we haven't got it. And so, just for the sake of Director Miller, make sure we get this correct. It would approve as follows: AFNO $1,000 in kind. Evergreen, $1,000. Did we say 1,000 or 750? I can't remember. Okay, I'm going to say 1,000. Then we can always amend. Okay, just so we're clear. So in that whole first group there, Prince Rupert Arts Council 20,000, the Halloween Fest 6,000 in kind, Crime Stoppers 500 in kind. Navy League, 4,500 in kind, and Wildlife Rehab Shelter, $6,600 cash. All right, and then I'm moving on to the second group, $1,000 for Guns and Hoses, $1,600 for the skating club in kind. Both of those are in kind. Senior Center, $1,000 cash. Aboriginal Day, $2,500 in kind. All right. Now moving on to the final group, Eco Trust would be $0. Special events would be $30,000 in cash and $12,000 in kind. Tourism Prince Rupert, $17,000 cash. Cane Island Trail Society, $0. Amateur Swim Club, $0. Gymnastics Society or Association, $0. Would somebody be willing to make that motion? Understanding that we can still have amendments to it, but somebody want to make it? Councillor Niche, seconded Councillor Randawa. Are there any, Councillor Adey?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments specific to a couple of these. One is with respect to EcoTrust Canada and the Can Island Trail Enhancement Society, we should remember that what their objectives are fall very much within the scope of the kinds of things that have been articulated in the official community plan with respect to local food growth on the one hand, and quality of life through trail enhancement in the case of the Trails Society. So I'm not opposing where we're at with these motions. I do think that we're stuck in the vice of what we can pay for and what we can't. What I would like to do, though, is offer the thought that as we pursue the directions that are undertaken under the official community plan, that we be mindful that these two organizations fit very well within that, and that over time there may be ways that we can support them, perhaps not in the same form as a community enhancement grant.
Right.
So I don't think that saying no to them at this point is the same as saying no to them, is kind of what I'm saying. With respect to the Special Events Society, you put the $30,000 in as a motion. I did note from their application that the essential piece that they're looking for and the reason behind asking for 50 in the first place was that they feel there's a need to have a full-time event coordinator. So I guess I would ask the question whether by offering 30, what we're really offering is the ability for them to create a fairly significant but a part-time position of event coordinator. And I would want to know maybe back from them whether that works for them, whether that's a way of compromising from their perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I do note if you look at their financial statements, they've got a fairly healthy cash balance, which I'm sure they're preserving for the rainy day fund. Like we all serve on different boards on different societies, and you work hard to build it up. But it strikes me that with the increase we've given them, that perhaps they may be able to draw on their fund, and perhaps next year we can be in a place to help them out more. Just an observation. Councillor Cunningham.
You say increase we're giving them.
Yeah, it is.
We're just matching what we gave them in
Which is an increase.
pre-COVID.
It's pre-COVID, correct. Up from last year, correct. Yeah. Fair enough. And I don't think there's any way of getting that information before we vote this evening, Councillor Adey, but it's something that we could always have special events come and do a presentation to us at a future meeting. That'd probably be useful all round. Yeah. Councillor Forster.
Sorry, just a point of clarification. You said 30,000 for them in cash and 12,000 in kind.
Correct.
So total 42,000.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other, Director Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I just get clarification, please, on the Evergreen program for Charles Hayes? If you meant $1,000 cash and 1,000 in kind, or 1,000 total?
No, $1,000 cash and 1,000 in kind, unless council amends. All right. Seeing no further discussion, and assuming Director Miller, you've got that rather complex motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Well done, Council. That could have been a much more complicated matter. All right. We then move on to a report from the Chief Financial Officer, Asset Management Strategy and Roadmap. And I assume I'll go direct to Director Bombin. Did you want to speak to this?
I can summarize a little bit of it for the sake of the community. Utilizing a grant from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the city has worked with Urban Systems to develop an asset management strategy and roadmap. The asset management strategy articulates what the city should focus on to improve its asset management practices and improve its asset health outcomes. The roadmap outlines the specific actions the city should take over the short term to implement the strategy. This work is being done to govern asset reinvestment and renewal decisions in the short and long term, which will help the city achieve better outcomes as they relate to service levels, financial health, and overall service sustainability. Approval of the strategy and roadmap will provide the city with the governing policy on which to base future asset reinvestment and replacement decisions, as well as fulfill one of the grant funding agreement requirements.
Great. Any comments or questions from council? I'll entertain a motion to adopt Councillor Randawa, Councillor Ady. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We're then moving on to a report from planning. We've got several development variance permits. We've got a recommendation that council proceed with the approval for the development variance permit at 539 6th Avenue West. Can I entertain a motion to that effect? I've got Councillor Niche and Councillor Cunningham. Any comment or input that you wish before we vote? Yes, Councillor Cunningham.
This seems to be another one of our, they've done it and now they're asking for our permission.
I think that's a fair comment. Chief Beckwith, did you want to have somebody from staff respond to Councillor Cunningham?
Sure, we'll defer to Daniel.
Perfect. You got a microphone there? Oh, there we go.
Yes, this is a case where someone has gone ahead and built without asking for permission, but the city manager has created a policy regarding when building inspectors have to go in and check that people are following their building permits. So that is something that helps, but in this case, it slipped through.
Yeah. Any questions or comments? Any further questions from council? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Thank you very much. We have a report for another development variance permit, number 2222 for 1546 India Avenue. And I have a motion to that effect. Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Ady. Any questions from council? Councillor Cunningham.
I went up there and looked at this today, and the garage is going to be 22 feet wide.
That's what it shows on the.
Yeah, it seems like rather a wide garage for. You know, they're saying they just want to get one vehicle off the road.
Fair enough. That's a fair comment. I can't.
You know, they're asking for a variance
So
to go within the property line variance, but they're asking to build a garage 22 feet wide.
Yeah.
If they only made that 20 feet wide, it would be within the legal.
Yeah. I note that the they also talk in there about an exercise room or something in that application as well, but you know, as part of the facility. But it's a fair comment, and you know, clearly citizens have the right to, and I encourage people to ask for development variance permits if they feel the bylaw doesn't suit their particular situation. But of course, it's always up to council as to whether we can say yes or whether the neighbors will say no too. So this is going to introduce the next step, which would be consulting with neighbors, right? Councillor Ady and then Councillor Niche.
That was actually my question. It's saying that proceed with approval.
I'm sorry, it's approval. I'm wrong.
So then I'll rephrase my comment and say and ask staff if there were any public responses to this.
Fair enough. Chief Beckwith.
Mr. Mayor, we've received no additional comments on this one. There are no comments received on this.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for catching that at least. Yeah. Councillor Niche.
So it's kind of if you look at it on a normal building lot, you're supposed to be 12 feet from the front, 4 feet from the sides, 10 feet from the rear. This is a corner lot. It's kind of funny because it's actually the street address is India, but the front door faces Goddard.
Yes.
So if you look at it from that perspective, you know, they're still within the, if you, in a normal situation, they would be within 4 feet of the side property line, which, you know, so I've had this discussion before with other people because on a corner lot, what do you call front and what do you call side and so on. So being that the front door, and I'll just say that the siding looks really nice in this house because I did it about 6 years ago for the previous owner. And the addition. I did the addition and the siding. But for the previous owner, but that there, it's, you know, it's kind of like if you looked at it from the front, then that side garage would still be in a normal setback if that was the front. So I really don't have a problem with it. They actually might want to reach out to me just so I can tell them how deep it is there. We can talk about that another time. But I really have no problem with it. I think, you know, where it's located, it's off a side street. It's not really impactful to any other people. So I have no problem with it.
Okay. Any other comments?
If the neighbors have no problem with it, I have no problem with it.
There you go. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you very much. And we move on to a report from Planning Manager with regards to the Housing Needs Report, with the recommendation that Council receive and adopt the Prince Rupert Housing Needs Report. I'd entertain a motion to that effect. Councillor Nish, Councillor Skelton-Morven. All right, with that, we've got a presentation here this evening, and I would ask Director Pope, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think it's just Manager Pope right now, but thank you. So the recommendation for this report is to receive and adopt.
Thank you. Sorry.
No worries. The recommendation is to receive and adopt the housing needs report that the city developed with City Spaces Consulting. And in early 2022, the city engaged City Spaces through a request for proposals to carry out a housing needs report for the community. And this is a brief presentation to give a high-level overview on some of the key takeaways around housing needs and the value of this report to informing our next steps for housing. There is more detailed information available in the housing report in the agenda package, and staff are able to answer any additional questions after the presentation.
Great. Council, I know you've had a chance to read through it. It's a substantial report. I'm just wondering if you have any comments on it before we move. Councillor Adey.
I'm not sure if we were going to go through any of the slides or not.
We're going to go through it? Okay, good. Excellent.
I'm asking you if that was the plan.
I think that is the plan. I'm getting the nod. Keep on going.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Then this presentation is just for context for councillors and for the public who are listening. I'll just so that there's a bit of insight into what's in the report. And I'll also echo that this report will be placed on the website and available for public viewing after. So first, I'll start with some background on the housing needs assessment or the housing needs report and what the purpose it serves. So first of all, why did we do the housing needs report? We were required to under provincial legislation as of 2019. And this report fulfills the legislative requirements that are outlined in Local Government Act, mainly Part 14 and the Housing Needs Report Regulation. And the second reason, more broadly, housing is a core issue facing our community. There's old housing stock, lack of rental supply, increasing costs over the last few years have left housing as one of the key issues on everyone's mind. And there are intersectional and broad implications on other community goals that housing affects. So this report outlines in detail the housing challenges that this community faces and identifies strategic areas for action. How is this needs assessment report developed? So City Spaces collected data, analyzed trends, and developed this report to describe current and anticipated housing needs. And it used data from local demographics, economics, port projections, housing stock, and other factors, and also engaged with First Nations, key housing providers, employers, social service organizations, and developers to develop the outcomes and insights that they found. And then finally, now that the report's finished, I'll touch on this at the end of this presentation, but I'll note that this is not a housing action strategy, but this report will be a key piece to develop our housing action strategy in the new year, as it gives us baselines and key areas for focus, and it will be continuously be monitored and updated. So just a high-level summary. The report summarizes key factors and the outcomes related to those factors that creates the context of the housing crisis in Prince Rupert. These include the fact that the population is expected to grow significantly due to port growth, that 3/4 of Prince Rupert's housing stock was constructed before 1980, meaning that many homes are reaching end of life and in need of major repair. There's a difficult construction context in Prince Rupert due to the lack of building industry, supply constraints, and the geological characteristics of the land that we live on. Prince Rupert also has a higher renter population, proportionally, even compared to the province, without a large dedicated rental stock. The infrastructure deficit that's facing the city affects shelter costs through services and taxes and limits the financial capacity of the city to address housing directly. And there's a labor shortage across the community and industries. So this results in significant increases in cost of market housing, both within the owner and rental markets. This increase in cost that means that there's a growing income bracket that do not qualify for low-income non-market housing, but can't afford market rates. And then for those that do qualify for non-market housing or low-income housing, there is significant shortages, which is indicated by the long wait list that already exists for new non-market developments. There's also a lack of what we call adequate housing, or most housing needs major repairs. And this means that the market rate of housing doesn't actually cover the full cost required for renovations, and that most naturally affordable housing the reason it's affordable is because it's in disrepair. And then finally, the lack of housing options and increasing price exacerbates the labor shortage. So companies and industries are unable to attract or retain employees. And this has indirect effects on all aspects of life. So for example, Northern Health highlighted the difficulty retaining staff due to the housing shortage, which in turn affects the healthcare delivery available in Prince Rupert. The report also looks at this indicator, what's called core housing need, which is an indicator for housing need that Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation uses. And in layman's terms, core housing need basically means that housing is unaffordable, or that the shelter costs are more than 30% of before tax household income. It's overcrowded, which is this indicator suitability, or in need of major repairs, which is what we call adequacy, and that there are no other households in the community that do not meet all those requirements. So when we look at core housing need and housing need and what they found in this report, core housing need decreased from 2016 to 2021 from 12.2% to 7.3%. And I've got a bunch of stars beside this number because it's highly caveated. This was the 2021 census data was collected during while COVID financial benefits such as CERB were in effect, and these are no longer in effect. So it is likely that it may have supported many households out of core housing need, and those households will be returning to core housing need. If we break down the overall core housing need, we can see that 14.3% households are below affordability standards. 14% households require major repairs. And I'll just note that this is significantly higher than the provincial average, and it has grown since 2006. And 6% of households are overcrowded. And on every one of these metrics, renters fare worse than homeowners. And then the final statistic is that from 2018 to 2021, the number of people counted as experiencing homelessness grew from 71 to 118 in Prince Rupert. And then from engagement, consultants found that there is a lack of housing options, including those for moderate income housing that is below the current market rates, accessible housing for seniors and those living with accessibility barriers, lack of multifamily housing, which is often more affordable and provides smaller units, and a lack of housing with supports for people living with complex mental health challenges and acquired brain injuries. And so through this process, City Spaces identified major housing gaps in Prince Rupert, and this slide just summarizes those. It includes accessible housing for seniors, multi-unit development for singles, new market housing, rental housing for low and moderate income households, housing with support services, and larger units for families. So these are the areas of action that we can dedicate resources to. our strategy towards. And the report also identified anticipated housing by income. These numbers, anticipated numbers, do include port projections. And so you can see that overall we require approximately 5,000 new homes by 2031. And this will need significant attention to both market and non-market housing. And so we'll return to the next steps, which is the next primary step is to develop a comprehensive housing needs strategy, and that will build on this report. It will build on the interim housing strategy that was adopted in 2021, as well as previous reports. And that will go through a significant public process with more consultation with the public, stakeholders, and First Nations. And then we will build this strategy will be at the core of any new projects, policies, or development processes, and we'll continue to monitor the housing data based on this baseline report and update and manage the housing action strategy as we go forward. So at this time, we are asking that you receive and adopt this report, and staff are available to answer questions you may have tonight or report back at a later council meeting. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Adie.
I want to start by expressing how much I appreciate the detailed information that's in this report. I think I've had dozens of conversations with people who said, well, we've got to build more of these, and we've got to do this and this and this, and how come nobody builds anything of this? And having something comprehensive like this that everybody has access to, not just councillors, I think informs that conversation is going to make our jobs a lot easier as we interface with the public talking about housing, which is obviously something that is going to be front and center over the next few years anyway. So I deeply appreciate the work that went into this, and full compliments to the people involved in it. I'm very grateful that it's there. I also think that it's a big step towards what one person was expressing to me. He said, well, they've torn down these buildings, they're referring to the Kootenay Avenue area, and nothing's happening yet. I don't even know if there's a plan. And this is very helpful in terms of articulating that, in fact, there is a plan, and if we could all build them overnight, we would, but it's not how it works. So I think this is a very helpful, important document, so I appreciate that a great deal.
Great. Other comments, questions? Councillor Cunningham.
It's a great report, and it addresses a lot of our needs. And I agree with Councillor Eadie. It's something we can put out to the public. I just zoomed in on one aspect of it, senior housing, and I looked at it, and this report was done this year, but they're referring to wait lists that are 2015. That's 7 years ago. Now, if you add up just Cedar Village, Wayne Place, Kootenay Place, and Kane Senior, you come up with 93 units. I made some phone calls today. We have close to 200 people on senior waiting lists in this town alone. Yeah. And so, this report, although it's very thorough in that, in some areas is lacking the right information. And I got this information by just making phone calls today. Here it says waiting list for Acropolis Manor is -6. In reality, it's 10 plus. And that's just one aspect of it. Wayne Place, it just goes on and on and on. And, and this isn't counting the seniors that are sitting in houses that want to get out of them. Right. We have housing stock problems. If they had places where these seniors could move instead of moving out of town, then we would have more houses coming on the market. Like Councillor Neese's mother-in-law is waiting for him to build a 3-4plex, which is going to help in a lot of ways. Then that house comes available, and it's a trickle effect. And it's something that with an aging population, it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And it's an aspect of housing that I think we really have to take a very good look at, because it's one aspect of housing that, you know, just in the last couple of years, how many houses have we or units have we put on the market or brought forth for different aspects of incomes, but ignored the seniors. There's only been one senior project in the last 40, 50 years, and it's Cedar Village. And, you know, and that's only 32 units. It doesn't even dent the waiting lists. And all it did was add, when I phoned today and asked the comment I got, what was your waiting list? 40 to 50 people for Cedar Village alone. Yeah. And, you know, and this is just single units, never mind, you know, a husband and wife that want to move out of their house and have a half decent unit. Yep. Just an observation I made just in the one aspect of it. But I'm all for the, yeah, we needed this. It's a starting place. It's just that I really think it should be looked at a little more carefully if we're going to use this for going after provincial and federal funding.
Thank you. Councillor Niche?
I have said it numerous times, and I'll say it again. We need to get rid of muskeg. That is our main problem. We have given so much abilities through no cost permits, no cost development fees, rezoning applications. We have kind of, if we were giving these incentives, downtown development incentives, if we were giving any of these incentives to, if we were in Vancouver, there would be developers lined up down the street. But once again, it comes to developers are going to go where it's easy to make money. And Prince Rupert is not easy to make money. And I'll give you an example. I was just talking to Miss Bauman earlier there and talking about the one that I am building right now. And before I put one stick of wood on top of that foundation, I will be into that for $100,000 to build the triplex. $100,000 before I'm basically out of the ground. And that is the cost of doing development in this town. So to build big projects, it costs money. And to get people to build here, we need bare land. We need land that is clear of muskeg and ready to build on. So when they walk in the door or look at the piece of land, they can say, okay, I can build on it. You know, look what's happening down the road. You got Dairy Queen getting torn down. The place doesn't end. It goes down and down and down into a deep, deep hole. Luckily for us, across the street where the new police station is being built, it's on a rock and we don't have much to put in there. So that's great for the city of Prince Rupert because that's where we're building. So once again, we can talk about reports, numbers, places to build, incentives, all the stuff that we've talked about for years. But the reality is, if you give somebody a piece of land that is a rock to build on, the things will get built. If you give them a piece of land that's a big mud pit, they're going to go somewhere else. And that's what we need to solve our problem in this town. If we can get a piece of rock, people will build.
Thank you, Councillor Niche. Any other comments? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you very much. We have a report from the communications manager regarding the UBCM application for cultural humility training funding, with the recommendation that council resolve to support the city's funding application to UBCM to fund the implementation of Indigenous cultural humility training for emergency support personnel. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Skelton-Morven, Councillor Randawa. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from the Director of Economic Development and Transportation regarding business facade improvement, that council supports the application to the Northern Development Initiative Trust from the City of Prince Rupert for a grant of up to $20,000 for the business facade improvement program. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Randawa, Councillor Adey. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from the corporate administrator regarding a request for support, recommendation that council direct staff to provide a letter of endorsement for the $10 a day daycare campaign community plan. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Forster, seconded. Councillor Cunningham. Any discussion? I'll just say that just by way of note, Councillor Cunningham and I went to the Day of Awareness at Discovery Daycare, to which council was invited, and it was interesting. It was an informative time, and they appreciated the fact, I think, that council was showing the interest. With that, all in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Moving on to bylaws. We have a number of them this evening. City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3493, 2002, that council give fourth and final reading to the City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3493, 2002. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Adey, Councillor Randhawa. Any discussion, comments, or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We then move on to the City of Prince Rupert official community plan amendment bylaw number 3479. Recommendation that council give first and second reading to the City of Prince Rupert official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw number 3479, 2002 to amend the City of Prince Rupert's official community bylaw number 3460, 2021 to specify that council may allow a building height higher than contemplated by the official community plan building height framework for the city core if council considers a building to be low impact in terms of view obstruction and proceed to public hearing. So first, to reword that short, to give first, second reading and proceed to public hearing. Councillor Nish, Councillor Skelton Morvan, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3505, 2002. Recommend that council give first and second reading to City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3505 and to amend City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3462 to permit one shipping container for temporary storage per property placement on private property in all zones with conditions as outlined in the current staff recommendation to council under framework 1 of this report and to proceed to public hearing. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Forster, Councillor Adey. Any discussion? Councillor Adey.
Just to note that when I went through the package, I noticed in one of the earlier bylaws that there was a statement about containers, and I thought, well, we're going to get into the weeds on containers again. So I want to say that I appreciate the fact that there, within this one, there is a fairly comprehensive set of options in terms of how we manage containers, because I know it's a point of public interest. Having said that, I think that, you know, this is probably not the time to go beyond supporting the motion to have it go to the public hearing, because I'm interested in what the public has to say.
Great. Thank you very much. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Item number D is the City of Prince Rupert Trade or Business License Amendment bylaw number 3509, 2002 that City Council give fourth and final readings to the City of Prince Rupert Trade or Business bylaw number 3509. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Randhawa, Councillor Adey. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. City of Prince Rupert ticket information bylaw number 3510. Recommendation that council give fourth and final readings to the City of Prince Rupert ticket information bylaw number 3510. Councillor, is that moving it? Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Adey. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you very much. City of Prince Rupert zoning amendment bylaw number 3510, the council introduce and give first and second readings to the zoning amendment bylaw number 3511, and that council waives the public notice requirement. This is, as is reported in the package, is just renumbering the bylaws to make sure that a number got used twice. So if people wonder why we're going through it so quickly, it's because it's really a housekeeping thing. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Nish, seconded by Councillor Forster. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. And then with regards to the same bylaw 3511, a recommendation that council give third reading to the zoning amendment bylaw number 3511. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Nish, Councillor Skelton Morvan. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We are now on to reports, questions, and inquiries from members of council. Councillor Adey.
This is a question. It may not have an answer tonight. It may be that I'm asking for an update and perhaps at our next meeting. I was asked about the progress towards moving the city works yard to the new location, where, when, how much, those kinds of questions. So I think I'm probably asking that staff be given a moment to put together an update on that for the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll, that's been a topic of discussion and a topic of discussion in the community, and it's important, I think, that there be feedback on that. Thank you, Councillor Adey.
And one other thing, just to reflect on a Facebook comment thread that I followed with some interest in the last couple of days with regard to the RCMP's road check December holiday program. And, you know, obviously these things tend to arouse positive and negative comments, depending on your perspective, I suppose. My comment is that it's a season of the year when people are doing a lot of celebration. Personally, I'm supportive of the road checks. I think that they serve a valuable purpose, probably save lives, perhaps in indirect ways. So I guess my comment on that is two things. One is to make sure that people understand that the RCMP is and the RCMP officers are doing a job, and it's a valuable job. And the second part of the comment is my general wish for people that they enjoy the Christmas season, particularly in light of recent events, and that we do so in a positive frame of mind and take care of each other through the holidays.
Thank you, Councillor Adey. Any other comments? Councillor Cunningham.
Two things. First, the easy one. Now that we're into the winter months where snow clearing and ice are building up on sidewalks and that, I noticed that we send out a notice to all the local businesses to shovel their walks and everything, and they're pretty diligent about doing it. But I also noticed last year and already this year with frost buildups and ice on absentee landlords that own property that don't live in town. And you know, we brought this up last year. The snow wasn't cleared. There's a few people fell on the corner by McBride and 3rd there, walking up 3rd from the corner. There's a long stretch there that never gets cleared, and I think we should start either finding these people or clearing it and sending them a bill. Because
Okay.
I've noticed over the years they just don't seem to worry about it, and they own little businesses here and there. And on another thing is I received a letter from a concerned citizen about us passing a procedural bylaw in the November 21st meeting, and we did not pass the proceeding bylaw. It's being advertised in the paper, and if there is any questions about something like that, they can actually phone City Hall and find out what's going on. But we do first, second, third readings, then do public engagement. And, you know, there's suggestions we should do it other ways, but we do that for efficiency and that. So, and we've been doing it that way for a long time. So I just wanted to point it out, if that person's listening tonight, we did not pass that procedural bylaw, as he said in his letter to me, so, and to staff. So just take note of that.
Thank you. Director Miller, did you have any further comments on the matter? Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions, reports from council? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Adey and seconded by Councillor Skelton Morvan. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, council.